If you look out a window right now at, well, really any major city, what you're actually seeing is just this massive, incredibly complicated machine.
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost overwhelming when you frame it that way.
Right, like you've got the traffic lights dictating movement, you've got banks managing this endless flow of imaginary numbers and, borders, courthouses, police stations.
It's an unimaginably complex web, just this dense network of rules and institutions.
Exactly, all this legal tape that basically keeps humanity from just, well, falling apart.
Yeah.
And we look at that intricate scaffolding and we kind of just assume it's mandatory.
Right, like we treat it as the absolute baseline for a functioning civilization. Like it has to be there.
Yeah, we assume without it, we just have total chaos.
You might patch the machine when it breaks, add new laws or create new departments, but we never really question the existence of the machine itself.
But what if you could just hit delete?
Just wipe it out.
Yeah, wipe the skyline totally blank, erase the rule books, and literally rebuild human civilization from absolute scratch.
Which is quite the thought experiment.
It is. And welcome to today's deep dive, because we are doing exactly that. We've got a really fascinating stack of source material today.
Yeah, it's primarily this highly specific and honestly pretty radical blueprint for a utopian future.
Right. It's based on a text written back in 2009 by a thinker named Zhu Feng, and it describes the inevitable arrival of what he calls the Lifechanyuan era.
And our mission today, just to be clear, isn't just to summarize some utopian fantasy.
No, definitely not.
We really want to treat this text as a structural thought experiment. It forces a really uncomfortable question, honestly. Like, if you had to strip humanity down to its absolute bare studs, what are the minimum components required to just keep the lights on and keep people from tearing each other apart?
Because this text proposes a world where all methods are unified into one single principle and all religions into one origin.
Right.
And I mean, the promises in this 2009 text are staggering. We are talking about a society where you could drop your wallet on a crowded sidewalk and no one would even, think to take it.
It's a world where houses literally never need to be locked at night.
The weather is perfectly attuned to harvests. Everything is just in complete harmony. But the hook for me, the thing that makes this so deeply compelling, is how the author actually claims we get there.
Right, the logistics of it.
Yeah. Because to make this massive global utopia run, the text claims humanity only needs 8 specific categories of people. That's it.
8 functional roles for the entire globe, which is an incredibly tight bottleneck.
Oh, it's wild.
Yeah.
But I guess before we can even look at who makes the cut for those 8 essential roles, we really have to understand the environment they're going to live in.
Because the author doesn't just build a new world, he systematically dismantles the old one.
And how. The text outlines what it calls the identifying brands of this new era. And the very first one requires the total erasure of traditional societal pillars.
Total erasure.
I was reading through that section of the source text, and my jaw dropped. It calls for the complete disappearance of countries, religions, political parties, and get this, even families.
Yeah, that's usually the one that stops people in their tracks.
Just pause on that for a second. No borders, no political factions, and no family units. Listener, just think about your own life right now. Think about Thanksgiving dinners, or who you'd call in an emergency, or who you leave your savings to.
And this blueprint just says, erase that.
Right. But why? Why target the family?
Well, if you look at it purely from a structural architectural standpoint, countries, religions, political parties, and families, they all share one common function.
Which is?
They create in-groups and out-groups.
Oh.
They draw dividing lines. It's my country versus your country. My family's interests versus your family's interests.
Oh, I see.
So in a society that is perfectly unified under one general principle of global harmony, any exclusive loyalty is basically a threat. If you favor your own child over a stranger's child, you are creating a micro-inequality.
Wow. So to love everyone equally, you basically can't love anyone specifically.
That's the logic, yeah.
That is chilling. But logically, I guess I see the machinery of it. And it goes even further than that. The text calls for the total absence of the justice system.
Right. No courts?
No courts, no judges,
Yeah.
no lawyers, no constitution, no laws, no statutes. Just gone.
The external enforcements that we completely rely on today are just completely ripped out. And the author replaces them with what the text calls Lifechanyuan values.
Lifechanyuan values.
Yeah, the idea is that people will take sincerity, kindness, love, credibility, honesty, diligence, and harmony as their absolute sole guidelines for behavior.
Okay, wait, I have to jump in here with a massive pushback.
Go for it.
Because it sounds like switching a global computer's operating system, right? You're removing this incredibly complex web of firewalls and antivirus software, which in the real world are our laws, our courts, our binding contracts.
All right.
And you are replacing it with an operating system that just like assumes every single file is inherently trustworthy.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's doing.
But how do you enforce a value like harmony without a rule book? I mean, if someone steals my shoes, I can't exactly appeal to harmony to get them back.
Well, you're hitting on the core friction of pretty much any utopian design. It is a massive, massive leap of faith in human nature.
Clearly.
But the author attempts to solve this by introducing this concept of global management. The text states that the global production and life of man will be uniformly steered by sages and managed by wise men.
Okay. Steered by sages, managed by wise men. Let's be really clear about what that implies. It
Yeah.
is not a democracy.
Far from it. You aren't voting for these wise men, right?
No, not at all. The entire society shifts from a model of external enforcement where, a police officer or a judge forces you to comply under threat of violence or prison to a model of internal moral alignment, which is guided by these sages.
Eternal moral alignment.
And because of this profound shift, the text promises the absolute disappearance of war, disease, hunger, and crime. A completely harmonious global machine. Which means if you want to run a society entirely on trust and harmony and wise management, you have to drastically rethink the daily labor of billions of people.
Exactly, because you don't need enforcers anymore.
Right. You don't need litigators, you need sustainers.
Yeah, if you're no longer managing human conflict all day, your entire civilization's bandwidth frees up to just manage logistics and survival.
Which naturally brings us to the actual workforce.
Right.
The blueprint categorizes the necessary humans into 8 groups. And the first chunk of these groups basically makes up the physical foundation of the era.
So let's unpack who actually gets to build and maintain this world.
Yeah, let's do it. So the very first functional group is dedicated to creating material wealth.
Meaning the people producing food, daily necessities, clothes.
Right. The source text specifically highlights laborers in agriculture, industry, construction, and road building.
And consider how radical that definition is compared to our current paradigm. I mean, today, if you say wealth creators, we usually think of venture capitalists or hedge fund managers, tech CEOs.
Oh, absolutely.
But in this blueprint, the person pouring concrete or picking apples is the ultimate creator of wealth. It is a purely functional, survival-based definition of value. Like, if you don't produce something tangible that sustains life, you just aren't creating wealth.
Basically, you have to eat before you can philosophize.
Exactly.
But of course, mass production, even in a utopia, requires maintenance. Which brings us to the next essential group protectors of the environment.
Right.
And this includes cleaners, environmentalists, and... Wait. Okay, I felt a glaring contradiction in the text here. It lists police in this category.
Yeah, the inclusion of police in a utopian environmental category always raises some eyebrows.
I mean, the text explicitly promised earlier that there is zero crime in this era. It said no courts, no judges. So why on earth are police still on the payroll? Like, what are they doing? Are they basically just heavily armed park rangers? Or, I don't know, social workers in uniform?
Well, it seems like a massive contradiction until you look at how the author redefines these roles functionally.
Okay, how so?
In a world with absolutely no crime, a police officer isn't hunting criminals or making arrests. They are maintaining the social environment.
Ah, okay.
So think of them as stewards of public order and safety. If a tree falls across a road or maybe a crowd needs to be managed at a large gathering, they handle it. It's essentially an extension of cleaning the physical environment, just applied to the social space. The element of force is completely removed.
Okay, so they're keeping the streets literally and metaphorically clear of debris, not fighting cartels. Got it. So we have food, shelter, and a clean environment.
Right.
But human bodies still break down, and this is where we have to circle back to that shocking rule we discussed earlier, the total erasure of the family. Yes, if there are no parents to raise you and no children to care for you when you are old, who does?
Well, that responsibility falls to the third essential group, which is the doctors and nursing staff.
Okay.
But the text expands their role far, far beyond modern medicine. It describes this group as handling the entire human life cycle,
The entire life cycle.
from birth and early fostering, all the way through education regarding diet, managing old age, and literally everything that needs to be taken care of after death. It is literal cradle-to-grave care,
So it's basically outsourcing the family.
pretty much.
The society collectively fosters the young and cares for the elderly through this massive, dedicated class of medical and nursing professionals. It's fascinating because it removes the genetic lottery, right?
Right, exactly.
You don't suffer just because you were born to bad parents,
Yeah.
but you also lose that incredibly deep, specific bond of a mother or father.
Yeah, it creates total equality of care, but entirely at the expense of familial attachment. And once the human body is cared for, the society kind of looks outward to the physical laws of the universe, which brings us to the fourth group.
The explorers of scientific laws.
Right. Scientists, engineers, and technicians. Their mandate is to fully utilize the living conditions provided by what the text calls the greatest creator.
So discovering electricity, inventing transportation, designing everyday tools.
Exactly.
What really stands out to me here is the motivation. I mean, in our world, science is almost always driven by corporate profit or military advantage, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Billions are spent on weapons research or like consumer data algorithms.
Mm.
But in this blueprint, since neither corporations nor militaries exist, science is purely dedicated to understanding natural laws and improving the collective human experience. It's essentially science stripped of capitalism.
Right. And to orchestrate all of this, the farming, the cleaning, the medical care, the science, you obviously need coordination.
Right.
So the fifth group rounds out the physical foundation, and that's government workers.
But again, their function is stripped of all the modern baggage.
Yes, entirely. There are no politics, no campaigns. Their job is strictly efficient material allocation. They arrange people's work schedules, transport goods, and ensure society's logistical procedures just run smoothly.
It is the ultimate streamlined supply chain.
Exactly.
No filibusters, just logistics. And, if you look at these first 5 groups, it maps almost perfectly onto Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, just applied to macroeconomics.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
Right. You secure food and shelter, you secure the environment, you secure health, you secure technological advancement, and then you secure the supply chain.
But once physical survival and logistics are totally secured by these 5 groups, the society faces a completely new kind of crisis.
Right, because the text notes a major shift here. Humanity moves from pursuing material comfort to pursuing spiritual satisfaction.
Because once you eliminate hunger, disease, and that frantic daily struggle to pay rent, what do billions of humans actually do all day?
Yeah, how do you prevent a global existential crisis of boredom? If you give everyone everything they need, they might literally just lose their minds.
Exactly. So who's responsible for the human mind? That is where the final 3 categories come in. We move from the physical foundation to the architecture of the mind and soul.
Okay, so the 6th group consists of the creators of spiritual wealth.
Right. These are your artists, writers, musicians, dancers, filmmakers, game designers.
But their job description in the text is so intensely specific. It says they must ensure people are vigorous and do not suffer loneliness, that they are happy and joyful and do not feel boring and are far away from afflictions.
Yeah, it's almost like they're emotional technicians.
Yes, dousing the population with exactly the right amount of entertainment to keep the machine running smoothly.
They're tasked with maintaining the psychological equilibrium of the utopia. And interestingly, this category also includes reporters.
But not journalists in the investigative sense.
Yeah, no. They are reporters of good deeds. Their job is sharing global examples of sincerity, kindness, and honesty just to reinforce the cultural mood.
Because there's no political scandal or corruption to expose anyway. But here is where I really want to explore a subtle, but honestly massive difference in the text.
Okay.
The 7th group is called the creators of soul wealth. And this specifically refers to educators. But the author draws a very hard line here.
Yes, a very important distinction.
The text states that educators currently just impart knowledge, which is completely insufficient. In this new era, they must build people's soul garden first. If they only teach facts, they don't qualify for the job.
And this is perhaps the most crucial distinction in the entire blueprint. In our world, a math teacher's job is to teach algebra, right?
Right.
Here, the math teacher's primary job is to cultivate the moral infrastructure of the student and algebra is entirely secondary.
To me, it feels like the difference between the sixth and seventh groups is basically the difference between an antidepressant and intense philosophical therapy.
Oh, wow.
Right. The creators of spiritual wealth, the artists, are the antidepressant. They keep us entertained, joyful, and emotionally stable so we don't realize we don't have families. But the creators of soul wealth, the educators, they are actively reshaping our underlying morality.
That's a brilliant way to conceptualize it. The artists manage the mood, the educators build the operating system.
Right.
And remember, we discussed earlier that this society has no laws, no courts, and no police enforcing behavior. So this soul garden that the educators cultivate is literally the only thing keeping the society from collapsing into anarchy.
That is wild.
The pressure on the educators is immense. They have to program harmony so deeply into the population that no one ever steals a shoe.
Which brings us to the apex of the society.
Yeah.
The final puzzle piece.
The eighth group.
Yes, the eighth group. Guides of life and life. And that second life is capitalized in the original text, which feels very, very deliberate.
It is deliberate. These guides are described as a group of saints without rights. They define time, space, the meaning of existence, and they guide humanity to a heavenly kingdom.
Saints without rights. I mean, that is such a loaded, fascinating phrase. They have zero political power. They don't command the military well, because there isn't one. And they have no legal authority.
Right.
Yet they are designing the entire existential worldview for humanity. How does that practically work?
Well, it operates on profound respect and spiritual authority rather than coercive power. And if we connect this back to the grander vision of the text, it directly relates to the author's final identifying brand of the era, the promise that man will coexist harmoniously with other advanced life of the universe.
Wow. Yeah?
Yeah, these guides are the bridge to that cosmic level. They are the non-governing moral compass of the whole operation. So the logistical government directs the material supply chain, but these guides direct the evolutionary trajectory of human consciousness.
Okay, so we have our 8 categories. Material creators farming the land, environmental protectors keeping it clean, medical staff raising us from cradle to grave, scientists exploring nature, logistical government moving the boxes, artists keeping us joyful, moral educators building our inner gardens, and cosmic guides pointing us to the stars.
It sounds incredibly peaceful.
It really does. Sounds like a perfectly balanced, frictionless machine. But what about everyone else?
The fallout.
Exactly. If society is strictly, ruthlessly categorized into these 8 functional, harmonious roles, what happens to the millions of people who built, managed, and profited from the old world?
Well, the text has a very specific answer to this, and it is basically a massive cosmic downsizing.
Right. The author explicitly lists the professions and institutions that are exiled from the Lifechanyuan era.
And the logic behind who gets cut reveals exactly what the author thinks is fundamentally wrong with our current world.
I'm just going to read some of this list from the source notes because it is just wild to hear them grouped together. Ready? Judges, lawyers, soldiers, politicians, businessmen, entrepreneurs, bankers, financiers, and, wait for it, wizards and sorcerers.
Yeah, it's quite a striking juxtaposition. You have high-frequency traders and federal judges right next to wizards.
Right. And it's not just individuals. Entire institutional structures are completely dissolved. Embassies, immigration bureaus, customs offices, banks, insurance companies, all intermediary agencies, just vaporized.
Let's look at the underlying mechanics of that exile list, though, because it's deeply logically consistent with the rest of the blueprint.
Oh, for sure.
If there is no private property and no profit motive, you simply do not need insurance companies, bankers, or businessmen. The entire concept of finance just becomes meaningless.
That makes sense.
And if there are no borders and the world is unified under one principle without nations, you don't need embassies, you don't need customs agents or immigration lawyers.
Right. And no soldiers, because there are no resource wars. No litigators, because there are no binding contracts to breach. It is a systematic, total dismantling of modern capitalism, bureaucracy, and really any profession based on managing human conflict or artificial boundaries.
And the text even provides a mathematical estimate of the carnage.
Yeah.
It states that only about 1 in 10 current government staff will be needed.
So 90%?
90% of government workers, paper pushers, and bureaucrats will be deemed entirely superfluous. And the author, writing this back in 2009, offers a chillingly polite warning to the reader.
Oh, I remember this.
He says to ponder this deeply and transfer to other businesses as early as possible.
I mean, listener, just imagine being you, sitting in your car or at your desk right now. Maybe you're a corporate accountant or a real estate agent or a defense attorney. And this text from 2009 is quietly suggesting you go learn carpentry or become a street sweeper because a utopia is coming that will make your entire life's work completely obsolete.
It's terrifying.
It is. But it also forces you to evaluate your own utility, right? Like if you stripped away the bureaucracy, the commerce, the legal red tape of modern society, what is actually left of your daily labor?
Exactly. Would your current skills place you securely in one of those 8 essential survival categories? Or would you be part of the 90% asked to hastily retrain?
Right. It completely strips away our modern illusions of importance. We reward the financier far more than the farmer today. But in a reset scenario, the financier's skill set is utterly useless.
The blueprint demands we confront what is genuinely essential for human flourishing versus what is just a byproduct of a broken system trying to manage its own friction.
Man, well, as someone who talks to a microphone for a living, I am really banking on sliding into that 6th group as a creator of spiritual wealth, keeping people vigorously entertained so they don't riot.
Good luck with that.
But it really does make you question the value of the emails you send every day. So pulling back from all of this, what does the Lifechanyuan era actually teach us?
Well, whether you view this text as an impossible, naive fantasy or a profound spiritual vision, it operates as a mirror.
Yes, it forces us to look at our current society as a bloated, leaking machine. It claims all we really need is food, a clean environment, health, science, art, moral education, logistical order, and spiritual guidance. Everything else is just expensive noise.
It is a brilliant distillation of human existence down to its purest functional components. But, leaving the listener with all of this, it does raise a fundamental, perhaps even unsettling final question about the nature of who we really are.
Well, laid on us.
Well, the entire premise of this utopia, this beautiful, unlocked, familyless, harmonious world, it assumes that if you remove the firewalls, the laws, the courts, and the institutions, humans will naturally default to their innate goodness.
Right.
It assumes that under the guidance of sages, we will just naturally live by values of sincerity and love. But we have to ask ourselves, is that actually true?
Right. Is that
Are our rigid laws and complex, bloated institutions the very things that are suppressing natural human harmony? Or are they the only fragile scaffolding currently creating a baseline of civilized behavior?
Wow.
If we deleted all the rules tomorrow, would we get a perfectly synchronized utopian machine, or would we get something entirely different?
That is the ultimate $0 question. If you pull the plug on the operating system, do you free the human spirit, or do you just crash the whole machine? It's definitely something to chew on the next time you're stuck in traffic, just looking at all those complex rules keeping the cars from colliding. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the structures around you, keep exploring those radical ideas, and we'll catch you next time.